New way to record things. Alright, we're off to a great start. I hit the record button and the first thing that happened was
Well, I'm sorry.
So we're going to start. Welcome to After the Hype.
We have to pick up the death of After the Hype now with this silly intro. Like, it's...
Well,
Hello and
just like the first 20 seconds of somebody coughing.
Dude, one of the things that cracked me
My
up
God.
was a fucking 2-hour seamless loop of Patrick coughing from SpongeBob.
I saw that.
It was just him coughing for 2 hours. It Sure. I've been playing the fuck out of some Witcher.
Witcher 3?
Witcher 3 with the Witcher.
Hell yeah. Witcher 3 is really good.
I've been playing the fuck out of Skyrim again.
Man, you gotta move on. Skyrim is... You gotta find some... Bethesda needs to let Skyrim die.
I haven't played the Dragonborn DLC yet, though, so I was doing that.
Yeah, Witcher 3 is amazing and is one of the best RPGs I've ever played in my life. I'm not even halfway through it, and I easily give it a 6 out of 7. Easy. Easy.
That is a strangely arbitrary scale.
It's not arbitrary.
What?
We described how that works.
Yeah.
I have never heard the description of the 7 scale.
It is... The 7 scale is... it's kind of like from 1 to 5, but we stretch out the middle a little bit. Because 4 out of 7 is an average game. It's fine. It's not
good.
bad.
No, I'd say 4 has always been good for me. Like, you got 3
Yeah,
3 is okay. 3 is like mediocre. 2 is
3 is like...
2 stay
I
away
don't
from
wanna
it, and 1 is do not touch this game. It's terrible.
Yeah, 1 is like horrendous.
1 is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde for NES.
1 is like Rogue Warrior for the fucking 360 and PS2.
Getting
Oh,
anywhere
God.
between 7 and 11 frames per second.
Quote. And then a 5 is it's a good game.
It's a real good game.
If it's on sale, definitely check it out. A 6 out of 7 is if you play one game this year, it needs to be this or others that are rated 6 out of 7. And
6 is like game of the year.
Yeah, and that's the thing is we're not like Roger Ebert where we bullshit and don't use a number in our scale. Like 7 is reserved for we think this is one of, if not the greatest game of all time, or like the master of its genre, or a masterpiece, or is perfect, or it just like, and I can only think of like. Fuck, I can't even think.
I got like 3 games on that list, and we kind of went over that. It was Chrono Trigger, Modern Warfare, and Persona 5.
Oh shit, dude! Modern Warfare is really good.
I have played none of those.
Well, maybe you should. They're 7 out of 7s.
Honestly,
I'll
for
have
me,
to.
like 7. I don't know, man. Like I think Breath of the Wild's really good, but I think it's like a 6 out of 7.
I haven't played that yet either.
I've tried playing it. I don't really like it all that much.
Really?
I think there's too much walking around, and it's a little too time consuming for what I want. I don't think it's a bad game. I just don't have fun playing it.
Yeah. And that's the mark of an intellectual critic, is realizing something is good and knowing that it's not because it's bad that you're not enjoying it, just because it's not your taste.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I
So,
played it for a bunch of hours, and then I was like, it's just not grabbing me like I think it should. So I'm done. And Cade let me borrow a
welcome to-
Switch, so it worked out.
Welcome
Witcher
to
has
Playing God.
Welcome to After the Hype, Xander. Welcome to as the guest appearance.
I was about to say that. So welcome to Playing God.
We're bringing it
slash
back
After
from the dead, and they're putting it back in the grave, and then we're gonna instead.
We're pulling it out of the hole for a second, shooting in the chest 2 more times, and then shoving it back in.
It's the very definition of playing God.
You got this.
word, but I got it.
All right. Playing God.
Oh yeah, we should actually do the podcast sometime tonight.
Yeah, this is just the intro. I'm like, oh yeah.
Oh God, sorry, I forgot you guys were here.
we've been on the call for 10 minutes, and it's just like, oh hey, by the way, intro music. Hello and welcome to Higscast Playing God. With me, Jesse Cromeans.
Oh, hi, hello, hola.
Xander Nolan.
Hello out there.
And I am Nick Logie. Tonight, we're talking about how to guide your players through the character creation process. Conceptually, not like we're going through every individual game. That'd be weird and take like 10 hours, and only some of you would want to listen to that. So the first thing that I think is incredibly important with doing this is preparing yourself to do it. And the first thing you need to do when you're going to do that is know how to make a character for the system that you want to run.
Yes, Nick,
And not
you should always know.
lead a bunch of idiots through Shadowrun 5th Edition, knowing nothing of the game.
Alright, so hold on a second. That was actually the second time that I made a character in that game. It took that long as the second time. The first time, I spent 8 hours making a character the first time.
Oh my God.
Because there were so many options.
We could have started up an internet company with all the man hours we spent that day.
We could have started up an internet company with the man hours that one of us put in, let alone the rest.
It's a good thing no one's getting paid, otherwise we wouldn't have been able to afford that.
That'd be an expensive night.
Typically, whenever I get my hands on it, because we all know 5th Edition, some of us know Shadowrun. Everyone has their game that they know. You don't need to know how to make a character for the game you already know. That's easy. But one of the things I'll do when I get my hands on, like when I just get really fascinated with a book or with a system, I will just read the introduction. I'll read like half of it because fuck that shit. Most of it's all flavor and I don't want that. I just want the rules. I want the
We've also read what's a role-playing game about 60,000 times, so we don't need to do that again.
You know what the hell it is. You know what dice are. So when it says it's a D10 based system, you know that it's got this, or if it's D20 or D6 or whatever, you know.
And if you don't know, please refer back to this episode, the previous episode of how to set up and get ready for your game, where we explain all that stuff.
But what I'll do is I will look at like character creation stuff, and it'll be like, all right, pick your whatever bullshit, because every game is always just like core things you have and then skills and then other bullshit. And so I'll look at their description of, the core abilities and their descriptions of that and how they block it out. And then I'll go to that chapter and come back to character creation with the intent of myself actually making a character. Like, that's how I interact with the game. Is I'll get a piece of paper and I'll make my own fucking character, and for me it's a lot of fun. I love making new characters. I have alt-itis and I make them like mad. And so once I'm done making a character, I'll just go through the book and go like, okay, so Garnax the Penetrator, his AC is as such and such because of this feat that I want to get him that gives him a plus 18 to his penetration rolls to his whatever the fuck the system calls it, whatever. So that I have a reference. Because to me, when they always give the reference, they're like, Jimmy is playing his regular. I can't relate to that. I don't give a shit about that. I don't understand it. And so me making my own character helps me along so that I can help other people know what the fuck is going on.
See, I do the same thing. I'll always make an entire, full character as if I was going to play. Usually I'll just make that character into an NPC at some point because I already have the reference material, and then since I've already kind of gotten attached to the character, then it's like, well, just put him in there. He's not as important as I was originally making him, but he could still show up and be cool.
See, I don't know if there's an elegant way to do that. Depending on the system, you just got to kind of bite the bullet and trudge through it yourself so that you can basically you're pathfinding your way through the system. And if you're lucky, it'll be like systems you know and understand. Like World of Darkness is kind of like Exalted. And, Shadowrun is kind of like the Dragon Age role-playing system. You know, fucking the Star Wars Edge of the Empire stuff is kind of like Deadlands. Or
Pathfinder's kind of like D&D.
It's fucking exactly like D&D.
It
Like
is D&D.
Everything is very similar to other things, and as you play, you'll figure stuff out.
One of the things that I look at more than the actual character creation, because rolling up a character, it's pretty much straightforward. It's in the book. You could do that. You can have anybody roll up a character as per the stats and all that stuff, but making an actual person out of the character is a lot more difficult, and guiding a player, especially a new player, through that process is very daunting, because you don't want a bunch of idiots running around. You want to let the players kind of create a character that they're invested in, that they have, they understand who they are as a person. That way they're not chaotic stupid. So
and that's a thing that certain systems have a shortcoming in. Like, certain systems will encourage making an actual background or a character or a personality more than others. Like, for instance, 5th edition of D&D is pretty good at it. It encourages a background and a race and feats and language and just all this stuff. And it's pretty basic stuff. You can, like, if you feel comfortable defining your character's background and personality as criminal, and you can take inspiration from that, that's fine. If the player kind of can't, then whatever. But there's something there. 5th Ed encourages that, even in a minor value. Pathfinder doesn't give a fuck about that. It's like, here's your class, go. You got a bag of flour. You got marble. You roll initiative. You make a wisdom saving. You're dead.
Make a wisdom saving throw against initiative.
Yeah, seriously. Like, and then there are other systems like World of Darkness, where it's amazing to figure out what your character is, but not who they are, or what the personality's like. And then games like Edge of the Empire, where they super squeeze every drop out of everything around the character and who they're connected to and what their purpose is, and they give it actual values and purpose so they can be called upon, and it can show up on a random encounter. Like this, it's really in depth on what's around it. But again, the character, the personality of it, is not fleshed out, and it's really difficult to nail down exactly what you need to do. But some people take surveys, some people write down 3. Like, it kind of comes down to the NPC creation stuff that we were saying. Like, mine is making 3 words, and Nick's is more in depth, and Xander's is figuring out the economics of the homeland they came from and creating new languages or whatever the fuck. Like,
yeah, I go nuts with it.
Xander's is a textbook.
Goes full Tolkien on it.
Yeah, which is to my detriment in a lot of respects, because the players barely ever see that stuff, and I'm like, but I want to tell you about the history of Castle Varys, and it was built in the 14th age, 644. It was a windy fall day. If that's not even and it's not congruous, one character has more backstory, and certain people don't get spotlight, and it has to be uniform, and you being the GM need to encourage everyone to do that.
See, I like when I'm trying to hype people up for usually a setting that they haven't played. I'll take like a business idea, figure out a 30-second hype elevator pitch that you could throw at them. So that way it encompasses the rest, like the general aspects of the setting, like some of the real fine points just real quick, and then gives people like a bunch of ideas that start swimming around in their head and get them excited for something in particular. Like with Shadowrun, you always start out, the year is 2075. The world is overrun by corporations. They make the laws. It is the future. There are cyber technology implanted into your very brain. Hackers can crack into limbs. And then in the year 2012, a dragon goddamn burst out of a volcano, and then magic came back into the world, and then there are shamans and shit, and people are like, what?
And that's Everyone was like, "What?" So, let me ask you, like, what do you guys do? Because Xander was saying it's important to make, like, anyone can make a character and follow the letter of the book, but how do you get the spirit of it? How do you make a person behind the character? Like, what do you guys do, personally?
Well, what I do, whenever I create a character, just for purity of example, I will sit down and before I've touched a character sheet, rolled stats, anything, I think of what kind of person is going to be running around this imaginary space. Like, who are they as a human? Are they the atypical reluctant hero archetype? Are they the blundering but well-meaning politician? We know an example of that.
Yeah.
So I come to that kind of place, and then I figure out.
So you pick an
goal.
archetype.
Yeah,
like,
I pick an
like
archetype.
like a trope.
Yes. And then I figure out where do they want to be. Like, I put myself in their headspace, and I try to figure out what exactly is their life goal. What do they want to do with themselves? What do they want to see? And then slowly build on from that and do like a 100 question kind of fill out.
And that was one of the things I was going to bring up later is the 100 question survey. It's very
that
popular,
stuff so good.
and a lot of people think it works very well. I fucking hate that survey.
What?
I don't use
because no one remembers what the fuck they wrote ever, or it changes, or it never survives the first game. To me, it is a waste of time because they just don't remember. Like, if you're a really seasoned whatever and you just want this utensil to write your notes in, like, that's fine. But if you're not going to remember the stuff you write down, the exercise is pointless.
That's fair.
Like, especially if you yourself decide elements about the game and a conjoined backstory in the world without conferring with other players. Like, for example, there was a slight misconnect with the whole Latier thing because you wrote politics into yours and I wrote starting from the bottom. Like, we had two different ideas. If I had known you were going to be a politician, the fucking son of the king, I'd have been like, well, fuck it. I'm the court wizard. I'm the heir to the such and such whatever.
I will say this, though. It did create one of the most tense and mystical and really interesting character dynamics between those two, I think, that we've really ever run.
Right, and I agree, but that's like, I was striving for plot. Like, I'm not trying to settle any beef. I have no beef about it, but I'm just saying is that survey sets different expectations. Like, unless everyone does it at the same time with each other at the table, then it's really great. But it's like lifting weights by yourself and not ever watching anyone else lift weights. You don't know if you're doing it wrong, and you don't know if your friends are going to do it the same way as you. So that when you start doing it with them, it'll be different.
Edge of the Empire had a pretty good way of helping to resolve that kind of thing, where it's just like, okay, the person to your right, how do you know them?
Yep, exactly.
I thought that was an idea that...
I thought it was part of the rulebook. Is it not?
Because
yeah, that's what I thought.
See, I sat down to play a D&D game with a former player of one of our groups. This guy, he sat down. He's like, okay, so one of the things that I like to do personally, I think is pretty brilliant on my part. I guess you guys can see where this is going. He's like, the person to your right knows something about the person to their right, and then their right, and then their right. So everybody knows each other, and they do blah, blah, blah. And
but not everyone directly knows each other.
Yeah, I was like, that's really smart. He's like, I know. And I'm like, okay. And now to come to find out 4 years fucking later, it's like, that was in a book somebody else wrote? Yo, you just skeezy fucker.
So that's the thing about the 100 question survey is, if it works for you, do it, but it is not the fucking Bible. Like
Yeah.
they're
I think that a good rule of thumb is if you want to do the 100 questions thing, that's great. I like to do it personally, but I kind of have to refresh myself with it every few games just to kind of
Mhm.
keep myself into it. So what you could do is same practice, smaller scope. 5 or 10 important
Yeah.
questions that make the
and
character.
that's what D&D 5th edition does with the personality, background, like relationship, whatever that all that bullshit of the flaw,
Yeah.
like and alignment. Like that stuff guides the character being like, well, how would this character react? And even then that doesn't always work. Which is why I'm like picking your guys' brain to see what exactly you guys do specifically. So, like, Nick, what do you do when you make a character? Because now that I think about it, I've actually never seen you make a character before, because you always
I
just
haven't
showed the
either.
fuck up with a winner. Like, you showed up with Knee3 out of fucking nowhere, stole a whole game. You showed up with Big Jeffrey.
Well, Big Jeffrey was really just an accent I heard from Giant Bomb, and then I ran with it
And see,
real
that's
hard.
the thing. That's one of the things I do when I make a character is I think of a voice. Like for my Curse of Strahd game, I got a French accent, and I looked at Napoleon III's mustache, and I heard Inspector Jacques Clouseau's accent, and I was like, I want to make a dude who's just these two things, and then it's all fucking tropes. It's tropey McTrope, and that's it. And I'm having a fucking blast.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I think that everybody just has a different kind of process.
See,
Because all of my characters are...
I find there's just beauty in simplicity, because
Mhm.
I don't. So here's what I see a lot of people doing, and it's going into a game and then like already thinking that they know where the character's going to end up. I don't think about that. I think, okay, basically, what was your childhood like? What was your teenage years like? What are your young adult years like? Or do I stop at some point
Oh,
before then?
fuck!
And
That
then
reminds me of the fucking greatest character creation system ever, and it's the Shadowrun Lifestyles.
yeah, because it just gives you all that. You just pick it.
Bro, we forgot about that shit.
Oh my god!
Anyway, I'm sorry,
I was
sorry,
actually-
please,
I was-
forgot about that.
please continue.
I was getting around to that actually. Yeah, because I mean it's really good. But so basically, I just think of up to that point, and I actually before I even think of what like their lives were like, I think of like what looks fun to play. Like I'll go through the classes, like if any of them immediately jump out at me, or if like multiple ones do, I'll try to like picture playing in the setting, like not with any of the specific rules. Like if you told me it's a post-apocalyptic game and I don't even know what the rule set is for it, then I could think of something cool like, I mean, you could take something simple like Mad Max drives cars, right? And so you have this cool car. It's got spikes on it. Let's put too many spikes on it. Like it's a car of nothing but spikes. And the guy in there, he's his primary objective is like find water, or hey, I got it. Hook up a trailer to the back of it and deliver water to people in need. Like if I want to go good guy with all the spikes, or like use that same, hitch up to steal water from people if he's like a bad guy. And I'll just think of like what kind of. I mean, it's kind of archetypey in some ways, but I don't really think in terms of tropes and archetypes a lot of times, because as you guys are aware, I tend to not follow specific molds whenever I make anything. And so after I think about like how their lives went, like what's their relationship with their parents if they're alive. A lot of my characters' parents are alive because I just want to spite people who are like, my parents are dead. I'm Batman.
I can't help but play an orphan. I can't help it.
That's one of the worst tropes, though. It really is.
No. Okay, here's why.
It's not bad.
Here's why I always play an orphan. It's because I myself am not comfortable playing people's parents, and I am not comfortable with other GMs playing my character's parents.
That is a
So I
good
just cut them out
argument,
entirely.
because I have
And
had
in
to
fact,
play
that's
parents that I didn't want to play.
And it sucks, doesn't it? It's
Yeah.
the worst. Like, now playing siblings or playing children, like, that's fine. Like I can play like my one of my girls' character got mad pregnant and had 3 kids in a time skip of 8 years, and so she the fucking the rogue of the party had 3 kids.
That's a hell of
Settle
a
down.
time skip.
It is, and
That's like-
that's not even gonna be the biggest one too.
That's like she comes out. It's like, hey, we're getting the crew back together. That's that
No, that's
moment.
basically it. That's what it was, and that's like the we still haven't done the Lich fight yet because this is the moment of they're getting the crew back together for the Lich fight because they realize it's not done, or they've been preparing for it in secret the whole time. But like, I'm not gonna play their fucking parents, but playing her kids was very easy because like playing cute kids is a great selling plot point, and it busts open ovaries like crazy, and they're really fun to play. But playing a parent it feels like it just way too intimate and like personal. And
Yeah, it's a bit
like,
too much.
like submissive, and it's I don't like it. So I always play an orphan, and I always assume my characters in my game that I'm running are orphans as well, unless I'm told otherwise. Because I'm not thinking about that shit for 1 second.
Yeah, I mean that's
And
all
that's
fair
a
arguments.
shortcoming. That's a shortcoming on my part. I'm certain, like I wouldn't be able to have run the plot that you did, Nick, in Latier of the big betrayal for Kenton, because I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna play a parent. I'm not gonna do it. But like everybody has their strength and has their weakness. Like you're not gonna play somebody's girlfriend or boyfriend, and like that. It's fucking easy. Like it's. I fuck parents. That's why I'm an orphan.
Well, the final part of pretty much what I do to have a baseline character is if they have powers, which most people do in some form or another. I'm not talking about like special magic or psychic powers or anything like that. Well, I am, but I'm also
Like
talking about like can this random guy, let's say, run up a 2-story building, backflip off of it, and shoot somebody like mid backflip with a pistol from like across the street. Like
then-
that, I count that as a power.
Serious rockets from a mech.
Yeah.
That's totally a power.
And then when I think of these powers, like when did they acquire these things, and how does it affect their interactions with people? Like when it came
That
to
was,
Nithri, then since she could teleport and had telekinesis, then I was like, she makes a great thief. So I'm going to start with that.
Yeah.
And since I didn't know how the game was going to go, because I'm not going to try planning for like the character development, because I don't plan on my character development in real life. So then like she started out as a thief. It was pretty. It was a nice tense first session with the rest of that party when I jumped
Oh
in.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Everyone was on a
Jesus.
big ass Mexican standoff.
It was on for the
then-
ages, man.
Yeah.
That was a character entry for the fucking ages.
I really liked it. It was so tense because I didn't know how I was going to enter the game.
We should have an episode where we just tell stories. We write them down and be like, okay, here's the story, here's why this was good, here's why this was bad. Moving on.
Yeah,
we should just have an episode like that.
Go listen
we could
through
do
the
that
other podcasts and see what stories we allude to, and then just go all ham for it one day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
But
idea.
that was one of the things that the Shadowrun 5th Edition Lifestyles alternate character creation system, Christ, that was a mouthful, talked about. Is it said, like, one of the questions that really popped out at me of like, oh shit, I've never thought about this, and you just said yourself, is it asked very simply, who taught you how to use a gun? Where'd you learn to use a gun? Was it from basic training? Did you live in the middle of nowhere and have to hunt big game? Did your parents own firearms around the house and you just, they were taught eventually? Like, did you grow up on the streets? Like, did you have to learn? It was a trial by fire, and that, because that was always something everyone took for granted in 5th edition, is just guns, fucking guns, and
Guns
like
everywhere.
yeah, exactly. Who taught you how to use one? And that's such a important, intimate question, because my mind immediately goes to like an older brother figure, squaring up a young version of my character's shoulders at a dummy propped up against a barn door, and then I shoot wide and bust a hole through a door, and the dad comes out like, "God damn it, you're shooting at me!" Like that, that little thing, that little thought, that little question gives me more thought than like half of the shit on the 100 question survey, or like half of the shit in the fucking character creation tables for the background stuff in D&D 5th edition. Like,
The
It's
reason I
asking
generally don't
the
like
important questions.
generally the reason I don't like the survey kind of questions is because they're asking for very, very specific things that seem to be disconnected from the other things. And I don't know about you, but last time I checked, people are kind of made up an amalgamation of all that stuff meshing together instead of individual instances that you could pluck out of time.
Hmm. No, that's fair.
I honestly think what would be better and like more interesting would be a psych eval style series of questions, kind of like the Blade Runner replicant interview of, you see a turtle on the side of the road. Do you pick it up or do you, or whatever? Just a series of multiple choice questions that evoke a mix of consciousness, morality, civil servitude, sexuality, romance, independence, understanding, knowledge, pursuit. Self-sacrifice, just core characteristics like that in each question, so that when you're presented with something similar to what you've got, you can go like, oh yeah, that's right. In my head, this character already did this. In this hypothetical, the character already responded this way, so I know what they're like, and
Yeah.
then that falls in on itself. And I think that would be more interesting, though. That's really heavy for like a first-time player, but I think it would get them more into it.
Some of the
And
best role players I've seen, like fresh out the gate, have just gone in on like really like intense situations like that, without like going full overboard or getting into uncomfortable territory. Like if
yeah,
you ask the hard questions right out the gate, then that kind of immediately starts
yes,
conditioning whoever's playing to think that
it's
way.
yeah, and
So
soft
You
stuff.
play D&D to make D&D characters.
yeah. So I have officially been inspired to now write the replicant style interview thing to kind of
Well, the
kind
replicant
of look through that.
survey, specifically, it was never a multiple choice. The example of one of the questions in Blade Runner was, you're traveling alone on a highway on a hot summer day. You're in a desert and you see a tortoise walking along with you. You stop and flip it over on its back. Why did you do that? And it basically challenged like that. It's meant to show an intense response from the replicant, but the proper one would be like, you see a tortoise walking with you, what do you do? Do you flip it over? Do you walk by it? Do you carry it with you? Do you pour water on it? One of those four things.
And if you ask those questions and your players start sweating, then you might need to worry.
Then you might need to shoot them because they're replicants. But yeah, like I think that type of like, because that's the thing. The Myers-Briggs personality test is it's all fanfare. It's all glitz and glamour. It's not anything scientific. It's just like
It is.
the dude who made it himself is like, it's not perfect.
It was made before the scientific method and based entirely off of his own personal experience. Like it's in Psychology 101 books as an example of something that we use as a general guideline, but is not to be used to try and understand someone. It's just a baseline.
Don't get me and Xander. Don't get me and Xander talking about psychology in the world of and habituation and all that shit. But that's what I'm saying.
This isn't playing Freud. This is playing God.
Sometimes D20 is just a D20. And it doesn't have to be a butt plug. What?
I think you might be suffering
from
some anal retentive issues.
I actually have an oral fixation, my friend.
I do too.
I do. And I know you do. You smoke like a chimney. Anyway, this isn't Psychology Tonight with David Hayter. This is Playing God. But I honestly think something like that would help. And if all of your players do it, honestly, I should probably try that out. Xander, we should collaborate and make a little something together.
I actually, yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Once my Tales of the Orient game ends, we're actually going to play Edge of the Empire. And we're all very excited to play it. I bought the beginner's box and ran it for all my girls and my girlfriend's boyfriend, and they fucking love it, like as they should. The system's amazing. But yeah.
Oh, I just realized this is a very simple thing that I don't think we mentioned. And
What is that?
if you're going to be making if you have a whole party of people and they are either new players or not new players, even if they're experienced, new system, whatever. If you guys are all like playing together, then you should probably kind of make characters at the same time.
Yeah.
That is absolutely true. Making characters separately, you've got to have a ton of experience with the GM and the other players, and even still, there's going to be issues. Like me and Jesse and Nick, like Nick's Ren games that me and Jesse have played in before, we've got a lot of experience together. We've been playing in each other's games for years now, and even still, like tonight, Jesse brought up a real issue. So it's really good to create characters together.
Even then, we'd still want to sit down and bebop ideas off each other, because what's important not only is what you're playing, but what others are playing with you. Because like, if I do one of the sickest combo, if like Nick said we're gonna play Shadowrun tonight, Xander, Jesse make a character, I would go, I want to play a Decker, and Xander might go, I want to play a Sniper, and then we'd bebop off of that, and you go, okay, I want to have this, and like I'll have leadership, and we'll have this, and like we won't make the characters tied to each other, but they'll make it so that the cohesion is fun. Like,
oh yeah,
or if
because it's like if you all show up to a D&D game and none of you are playing a tank, you're fucked.
Yeah, I got
Like,
a couple
just
things
that's-
actually about this. The first is like when we all made characters for Xander's game and we did collaborate our backstory. We were all from like the same
Oh, yeah.
corporation, and
Mm.
then like we were this elite team and we fucking got shit done. We had our roles and everything. That went smooth as
We
butter.
had a magical hobo, an orc face, and a robot.
Yeah, you guys fucking. Oh man, like, dude, the
What was
ending of that
great
game
is
was
we
fucking.
weren't like so for reference, Xander ran a 3-part game in Shadowrun, real high intensity, very steeped in the world, to the point that it was so steep that we didn't believe a lot of the shit, because we're hearing this for the first time. And we all came from a corporation called Ares, which is basically like the NRA of the setting, or like the Glock of the setting, or whatever. Just, I mean, it's true. Ares is like the NRA.
I would say Glock, but
Yeah,
NRA, NRA qualities for the Glock company.
Yeah, NRA policies, but Glock distribution. But none of us worked in the same department. None of us were like buddies. It was all like, yeah, I worked in asset protections. I worked in research and development. I worked in Firewatch. I worked in this different and so when we all met up, there was this like, oh, you worked with such and such. Yeah, I worked with them for 10 years. I'm like, oh, I did that, and yeah, I got recovered to this, and I got burned. Huh. And then it was just a series of shrugs, and that was the character connection, and it didn't have to be all like handholdy of like, our mothers raised each, like, it, you know, if the system is grim and gritty, like, have the relationships be similar. Like with Edge of the Empire, we've already got the relationships figured out, and it's like the smuggler won the escaped slave girl in a card game, and now they're rolling together, and the mechanic buddy has a security droid who is no longer commissionable and hasn't been wiped in like 30 years. She found him in a scrapyard, and then they are all get like it's not like buddy, but it's all just like loose and simple and easy. And if you don't make characters at the same time, or at least if I can talk about it, you'll all show up to the table playing rogues.
All right, so let me segue off that, because I wanted to talk about my Starfinder game. I'm not running, but I'm playing in it. That shit happened. Okay, so they cycle out the players each time. Well, not each time. Some people are like recurring, but it's kind of a drop in and out kind of game. And people who haven't played as much get priority to come in before the people like me who played like most of the games. And we didn't have that collaboration, so what ended up happening is 80% of the people playing are playing androids.
Now,
15% of those people are playing Isoki, the rat people. And then the remaining 5% are Lashuntas, which are like the humanoid psychic antenna people.
Now, go ahead.
And on top of that, we have like 3 operatives, which are basically the rogues in there. 3 operatives. We have like
How many players, for reference?
there's total about, I want to say like 8 or 9.
Jesus
They
Christ,
don't.
that's
Well, there will never be the full 8 or 9 at any same game table.
I get it. They cycle out. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's like 4 to
It's
5.
not a bad way.
So yeah, it's not bad. Like it's a very modular campaign, so it's pretty fun regardless. And it's not like if you miss a game, you're gonna be like in the middle of this. Why am I here? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
I've always wanted to do that with Shadowrun.
yeah, I did that for a while with the Shadow Boner.
Yeah,
but since there was no collaboration, most of the people are androids. And then so when people come in, it's like, I want to play an android. It's like, welcome to the club.
welcome.
Welcome to the Robot Club. Or hang out by the water cooler.
Now that is that's also not counting the fact that there are campaigns that are just rogues, and that's okay.
But that's the thing. You have to be prepared for
Yeah,
that.
you either gotta plan for that, and the players have to be aware of that, because if they're not aware of that, then you have too many skill overlaps, and then one person's like, I want to pick the locks, and somebody else is like, I'm good at picking the locks, let me pick the locks, and then third person's like, by the way,
even when you get to have that many people, by the very nature of it, people will split off. If you have 3 level 1 rogues, by level 3, they're all going to different subclasses, or one of those motherfuckers has multi-classed into something else, I guarantee you.
Yeah.
And that's the nature of it. Like, in Strahd, one of the players is playing a bard with very high dex, and I'm playing I'm playing a witch hunter, and I'm playing that very high dex. By the way, do not play a witch hunter. Play a blood hunter. A witch hunter is broken as fuck and is inappropriate for any game ever. Blood hunter is the modified one. It's basically the second edition of it all. Anyway, and so we had to like come to terms of be like, all right, well, you're really good with the rapier. Like the bard's dexterity is higher than mine. So I'm like, all right, you're gonna be the combat jockey, and I'm gonna be the knowledge person, because that's just how the stats roll. And I would not have thought of that when I made the character. I'd have thought he'd have been a combat monster, but he's not. He's fucking like Sherlock Holmes, but with like the demon blood.
but you still need to have that level of coordination of where your paths are going to lead, because if you still don't talk, then everyone's the combat monster, or it coincidentally turns out that everyone's Sherlock Holmes. And then his next case is figuring out why there's so many clones of Sherlock Holmes. It must be Moriarty.
Where you have to Sherlock clones. You have to.
Why didn't I think of that? Damn it!
If you like get to a talking part, it's like the line from Ghost in the Shell. You overspecialize and you breed. If you overspecialize, you breed in inefficiency. And that's it, because it's not so much like, oh, we got a metagame so we can get all the plot and get to, but it's if you have all the bases covered, everyone gets the spotlight when they need it, and everyone feels good when they do get it, and you never miss an opportunity as a party. Because that's the thing, is at its core, and this is something that some people don't get and never will, is role-playing is not about like winning. It's about telling a cool story. Like, if you aren't the best person in the party, it's okay if you're supporting somebody else. Like, that's the fucking. And so if you have to play the healer, make it cool. Make it an interesting fucking version of it. And like, maybe make your healer, who is normally like a pacifist class or whatever, totally brutal. And like, just fucking collaborate. Collaborate and listen.
Or if like the story calls for it, don't be afraid to just try a role, because that could lead to an awesome story. Like, I don't know how to hack computers. I'm gonna push some buttons anyway because I need to release the party from this like force field prison. Boop 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 boop. You have activated all of the gun turrets. Okay, cool. Like that could it might feel like you've quote unquote lost, but that could make for an awesome story where like you break them out of prison. The actual primary hacker is just like, oh, we have all these gun turrets now. Let me play around with these. They're on our side. Blam 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 blam. Now we're getting out of here.
And
all of these guards.
I know we're deviating away from it, but like that's what I love about systems like the Dragon Age role-playing game and Edge of the Empire, where you can fail forward. and it's more about the story and less about the stats. And that's kind of what I'm finding with 5th edition D&D. Is it focuses? It's got D&D. It's got the spirit of first edition D&D in there, but it's got a lot of room to grow in terms of roleplay, and make it. And the best place to do that to start is with character. And once you get a good character that you are like way into, and if you can lock yourself into, like Nick with Nithri, or Xander with Kenton, or me with Shiv Scammer or Double Jack or whoever, like the roleplay comes, the cool moments go, the rest of the party knows what to expect, and it's a fucking kick-ass time, and you will have stories for years and goddamn years down the line.
Yep.
God, I love this hobby.
I have you in my phone as Shiv Scammer.
That's right, you do. That's right, you do.
Yeah.
And 80% of the phone calls I when I call you is, "Hello, Shiv."
It's gonna see the name pop up, and I have to say that.
So what have we covered so far?
We covered a lot of stuff.
Broad
Setting
strokes.
the personality behind it. Our personal way of starting a character. The importance of collaboration. Setting up a good team comp. Like, there's no rule of thumb for it, but like, because every game is different, but you gotta have your bases covered. And
so, now that I'm thinking about it, something I do like to do when I'm doing a big group kind of character creation thing is like just keep everybody in the same general step. So like if you're rolling attributes, that's what everybody's doing. And like even if somebody gets finished early, like then here's what I like doing is like let them think on what they've already done, go get some snacks, let whoever hasn't gotten there take their time and come up with something cool, and then come back when you're ready to start the next step, whether it's getting skills or quote unquote other bullshit.
Yep. I can't. I mean, we have thoroughly. Now I just want to talk about stories. I want to
I don't know about thoroughly. I don't know, but we'll probably come up with something. You talk about stories. You want to talk? How about one of the best when all the specializations came into play in one epic aerial sniper shot, also from Xander's game that we were talking about earlier.
You guys go ahead and regale.
Oh, that was
that. I don't remember it all that well, actually.
Really? I made a GIF out of it and put it on YouTube.
I remember that you guys.
Yeah, that's right.
So okay, all right, I'll bring you back through because I remember this very well.
I remember how you, like Xander, we had to tell you that something wasn't cool enough because the dude wanted to. Anyway.
So this guy we needed to shoot in the face from a very long way away, and it was Shadowrun, obviously.
Well, we didn't have to be far away. We just had to get him.
Yeah, but our getting him was from far away. We had to do it right. Like, what was it? It was like a mile and a half or some shit like that.
So set up for the characters. I was playing a character called Notch. He was part of Ares Firewatch, which hunts bug spirits in the crazy magical future. And he got killed because he knew too much, and then he survived, and he had a robot face. He was like a Terminator. Really creepy. Couldn't talk at all. Had Charisma 1, but had like stupid decks, and just was a sniper. He was a sniper robot. Nick was playing an orc face character, and a face is kind of like somebody that just talks and is the face of the group. This was not in any way common because orcs don't have very high charisma and are very difficult to play, and there's a big prejudice. Basically, it would be like being black in modern in either today or the 60s. Like there's a big racial prejudice that comes with it. So there's a big chip on their shoulder. And we were playing with a friend of ours, Jeremy Wilmec, and he was a technomancer. I think he was a mystic adept, and he had a little bit of technomancy.
He did rigging with it as well. I remember that part.
He was just a magical anomaly.
Yeah.
And he, as most people do in 5th edition Shadowrun, when you make a character off the priority table, you play a magical hobo, which is what he did, and that's fine. It works, So we had all had we had some encounters under our belt, and we all knew each other, and we all knew what we were good at. I honestly don't remember it that well either. I just remember
So the rest of it is we so he had this drone that he was rigging into in order to lift Notch up into the sky, so you could get a really nice shot out of the sniper rifle. So you were hanging out on this glider like 600 feet in the air, trying to hit a target that was like 2 miles away, and my character was on the radio or the comlink with you guys, and I was like coordinating the targeting effort and like giving like this big morale boost to everybody, so I could give my leadership dice to him for piloting, and then you for shooting him in the face, and then you you picked up the dice.
He also had like a summon sprite on my scope to increase my accuracy or something.
Yeah, we put as much anything into that roll as possible, and by the end of it, I remember you picked up the entire cube of d6s, and you're like, I need more d6s.
I remember that moment. It's like,
I needed more.
Your brick.
And so with this...
reference, for reference, the game, the way the Shadowrun works is, like the stats are from typically 1 to 6. Average is like 2 or 3. And skills go from 1 to 12. 12 is like Usain Bolt at running. 1 is like an infant's ability to walk. So if you have a regular street thugs, their ability to walk, their agility 3, clubs 2, roll 5 dice to hit something. That's not a lot. Standard brick of dice comes with like 38 fucking dice, and I had more than that for this fucking roll. I think it was like 40-something dice by the end.
I think it was like 46 dice, and then you picked up this huge handful of dice. And you're like, I need to clear space off this table. So we like spent like half a minute clearing the table, and then we heard the most ungodly noise as all the dice hit the table. Some of them shot off into the ether, and we started counting successes. He was so dead that it's like just no sound. His entire body explodes. And then you hear the gunshot a few seconds later.
It's like
dice of the gun.
I actually remember that now because kind of visualizing the space that you guys were in. That one that was pretty good. Another really good example of the collaboration bit. From you guys is when you guys all had to go onto that oil rig platform, and then you went down in to the weird sort of 4 places that were all like different simulations and shit.
I remember that part. That was what you said when we split up.
No, that's when you guys getting in there was a really big collaborative effort as well. Because you had to, one person had to open up.
And Nick rigged into his own armor.
Yeah, that was the time I became Iron Man after performing surgery on myself to install the sim. I can't remember what it's called. Skill wires. Yeah, install skill wires into myself so I could rig into my own power suit.
There was an incredibly invasive surgery that Nick's character performed on himself by hacking his mind into a medical robot like apparatus, and he then proceeded to work on his own passed out body, and then like with the fucking Womack's character just watching, making sure you didn't die.
Yeah, because if I like failed any of those dice rolls, I was just gonna die.
Yeah, if you like pinched a nerve, you would have been paralyzed for life.
Because I finished installing it, I put myself into like a back to tank, and I was like, I don't really want to jump in there yet. I think I'll hang out in the robot while my body goes through this excruciating pain, and I'll come back later.
We did some crazy stuff, in that little 3-shot. It was good though. They were big long games, and that's maybe something we can talk about at another point. Is like the length of a campaign.
That's actually literally on my list of bullet points of
like
things.
How to end a campaign.
Hey, that's
I'm actually struggling with that now. Is I realize this with the whole Tales of the Orient thing. Is I've never ended a campaign. I've never been like the end. It's always just kind of stopped. Like
it is.
That's a
I
problem a
could-
lot of people have, actually.
I can tell you right now, the first time I did it was hard.
it just kind of meandered. Streets actually ended because I killed an NPC that I was so attached to that it made me sad and I didn't want to play anymore. Like that was why I stopped. And like that was a weird ending for this, by all accounts, awesome campaign. But with this, it's like I have an ending and it's, I don't know how do I do this? I'm not used to it.
Yeah, I've always tried to have a solid ending for any of my games. I think there's only been a couple campaigns I've run that didn't have like the end style things, and then one of them that I should have kept with the end, and then I can't remember why it continued. I'm pretty sure it was Shadowrun related. That's where a lot of things come from.
That was ZX Advent, I think.
No, that one I canceled because I couldn't handle 6 players with like a bunch of spotlight needs at the same time.
ZX Advent was like maybe 3 episodes long.
Yeah, it was pretty short.
It wasn't long. Also, we all were really burnt out on Shadowrun.
Yeah, we'd been
playing for like 5 years.
A long ass time.
Well,
yeah, we got anything else for character creation process or guidance or anything?
I think that beyond read the book, make a character, and try to make a person and not a stat block is pretty much the size of it.
Yeah, keep a lookout on the page or wherever you find this. We'll probably send a link to some material that we like in terms of early character generation surveys and stuff. And maybe Xander and I will actually put our brains together and make something cool. I don't know. We'll see.
I would totally be down for that.
We'll find something. Find or make something. Because this is what we do, man. We like this shit. That's my one regret about this hobby is I wish I had discovered it sooner.
Yeah, I wish I did too, but
I discovered it when I was 13 and I started DMing at 16, and I've been doing it since. And so that's 20. That's 17 years of playing and a solid decade worth of running games.
Jeez.
Jesus, you're 30?
Yeah, I am 30. You didn't know this?
Old. No, I don't.
Yes.
I don't think about age. Age is like impossible for me to think about. I don't.
I know, right?
See, I didn't discover any tabletop until I was 21.
Same here. I was 20 when I played. It was Pathfinder. It was at Dylan's old apartment, and Ian had drank a whole bottle of wine. For his fucking, it was a one shot too. And that was my first ever tabletop experience, and I knew nothing.
I can't remember if this was the same game, but if you want to talk about playing, parents, then that was pretty funny. Where Ian was like, he was all in his character, stomping around the apartment, and like he was like, "We got to get those fuckers." And then like whoever was GMing took the role of his mom temporarily because they were in the same presence, and he was like, "Watch your language," and he was like, "I'm sorry, mom."
Now, I had been running games for a long time. I remember when Pathfinder came out and we were all hyped up because we'd been playing in 3.5 for like 5-6 years or so, and we were all hyped up for this cool new game system, and it was just fucking 3.5 with a little bit of tweaking to it. We were so mad.
I never really played 3.5. Like more than I think maybe a game or two.
The farthest back in terms of systems I have gone is AD&D, and that's I barely played AD&D. Most of my experience of AD&D comes from Neverwinter Nights and Icewind Dale.
Yeah.
But other than that, like the next oldest was like World of Darkness.
I played like the original Gygax written version of D&D where dwarf and elf were classes, and
yeah,
oh yeah, and doors could kill you in a single, like you open a door wrong and you die.
Yep, that happened.
D&D 0 edition.
Yeah, I made a legit character like for the first time, like had a backstory and all that. Then I died to a fucking door, pretty much. And so then I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna roll straight down. All right, strength 18, fucking Deathbeard Iron Balls. We're just gonna go with that. We're just gonna have the dwarfiest dwarf who just gonna go in. He's just gonna kill things, and I got more experience that way. And I was like, this is bullshit.
Dude, if you played a wizard in any of the iterations, like in D&D First Edition, man, you were gonna die. Like there was no way about it.
Yeah, I played a
It's
cleric.
like a Call of Cthulhu game. You're fucked.
I played a cleric that first time, and it was like, you have 1 cure light wounds, like a week, and I was like, all right, cool, I'm gonna use it. Here's like a D4, and then all right, well, I'm done for the game.
In AD&D, my highest stat was a 10. You want to know what I played? I played a fighter.
Sounds like you won real
Because I
hard.
couldn't be anything else. Because of the fucking you have ability requirements.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Couldn't really make it as a fighter either.
Nope.
Skipped leg day, arm day, all days.
I just skipped the day. I just slept.
All right, well that sounds like it's about it for this conversation.
Sounds like a wrap.
Yeah. It sounds like we're filling the hour of time with hilarious stories.
Hey, it's a good time though. Thank you guys for listening.
Absolutely.
Indeed, and
Yeah,
we'll see
seriously.
you next time on Playing
Next
God.
time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
What? No. Goodbye.